call to. Is this part of the original council meeting?
When you have an executive session, you have to convene an open meeting first, and then you go into executive
But you
session.
don't have to have it part of the council. You just do that.
Yeah, just say we're starting the meeting.
This is a City of Gig Harbor having a special city council meeting on November 8th, 2020. The time is 5:06. We will convene in the rooms in the back and come back by 5:25.
For executive session,
For executive session.
to discuss-
The RCW.
Josh, can you quote it, please?
That's RCW 4230-110I.
For consideration of purchase of real property, correct? No, never mind. It's potential litigation. Thank you. Yes, okay.
Okay.
Yep, all right.
And no action.
And no action will be taken when we come out.
The executive session is extended for another 5 minutes until 5:30 p.m.
Council is done with executive session. We're back. So I would like to call to order the Gig Harbor City Council meeting of Monday, November 8th, 2021. The time is 5:30. This meeting will be accessible through Zoom at the site at the link that we provided on our website. Also, we do have some people in person, which is exciting to actually have some citizens and guests. So those that will be listening will not be able to see a video. We are working to get video and recording equipment that's brand new. It's probably stuck on a container ship, but we are going to make it so that people can Zoom from home and see the meetings, video and recording, as well as being in person. So we're working towards that. I'd like to have a roll call from my far left.
Robin Denson, City Council.
Lee Rodenberg.
Kevin Look.
Bob Himes,
Mary Kuhn,
Jim French,
Spencer Armstrong Council.
Tracy Markley, Council.
please join us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag.
United States of America. Liberty and justice for all.
The month is November, so before we begin this council meeting, we would like to recognize that we are gathered on not only the ancestral and traditional lands of the Squabs and the Gal tribe of Indians, but also on the site of one of the largest and longest standing historic villages of the people, the original inhabitants of Gig Harbor. There will be a slight change to our council agenda if there's no objection, and that would be to move new business 1, which is with a lobbyist to the front of old business, so our lobbyists don't have to stay as long. Is there any objection to that, council? Okay, any other changes the council would like? Okay, and with that, do I have a motion to approve our consent agenda? Move to approve.
Second.
Councilman Ryan, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Tonight, we are fortunate enough to have a presentation from the Mary Bridge Thrift Store. And I visited them a couple months ago, and just incredible work that they've done. So I asked if they would come give us a presentation. So we're thrilled to have you here. So all of you or whoever, please come forward to the podium.
Good evening. Mayor Kuhn, council members, and citizens of Gig Harbor. We are the little shop in Gig Harbor where big things happen. It started in May 24, 1948, with 8 members. They had bake sales, wrapping parties, and other events to raise money for the hospital. Then in 1972, they decided to have a permanent location. And after a person who owned property along the main street offered a little building. And this building was refurnished like a country store. And everything went fine until 1978. Mrs. Thurston passed and the property was sold. And Tom Galbraith of Big Harbor stepped up and generously offered a piece of land he owned where the thrift shop is located today. So the building was moved from downtown with the help of the city and the fire department and the police. And that's where we are. The 3rd of July, 2012, our building burned down. Nobody found out why. And Beth Rainwick, our president at the time, was given the difficult task to get it rebuilt. She and her board worked tirelessly with Mary Bridge, the insurance companies, and the city of Gig Harbor for permitting to rebuild on the same footprint. The result was a beautiful building rising like phoenix out of the ashes. Private citizens donated money, and the Gig Harbor Rotary Club provided many, many hours of labor. You all should know that nobody who has volunteered has ever been paid a dime. All merchandise is donated to us. 100% of what we take in after expenses, garbage, electricity, telephone, goes to Mary Bridge. We all work very hard. And by the way, our treasurer does a fantastic job to make us pass inspections if needs be. Her name is Vicky Bartmitzvah, and I like to point her out right there. You might ask who comes and shops. All walks of life. Tuesday morning, we give out numbers to limit the shoppers and give them space in the store. COVID shut us down in March, but we were back in August. Nothing can hold us back. Again, people with limited means, people who resell, take blankets, socks, and jackets to the homeless, and people who hunt for treasures. For some, it is their social interaction. Some of us also have been there a long time, now sell to the children and grandchildren. It gives us who have lost their spouse added purpose in life to get up in the morning, to restock the shelves, make it look inviting. We have formed friendships with one another. We listen to our customers' stories and how their families are doing. Monday mornings, after 2 hours of work, we sit down and have coffee, provided alternatively by Judy Delaney and Mary Ellen Carpenter, and goodies provided by various members, and we solve the world's problems. I wish we only could. In closing, I like to have 2 of our members stand up. Donna Doherty, please stand up. Yes, and Mary Ellen. Donna has been volunteering there for 43 years. And Mary Ellen and myself, who are former military wives and have volunteered a lot, joined in 1982. But the remarkable thing is, Mrs. Carpenter is 95 years old. Wow. And she takes care of the books. And and she pulls her full weight. Please tell your families and friends about our store. Our prices are very, very reasonable. And this helps everybody who sets foot in our store. And right now, we feature Christmas. Thank you for listening.
And I get to tell you exciting news beyond belief about Mary Bridge Hospital, and we're all part of Mary Bridge Hospital. Let's move up to the year 2024. Do any of you know what's going to happen at Mary Bridge Hospital year 2024? Projected. Get ready. In the year 2024, we expect to open a new hospital. And it will be in the greater area of where our present hospital is, and it will not affect Tacoma General Hospital. And I'd like to tell you just very briefly a few things about the new hospital. It's going to be one of the most advanced hospitals in the nation because of the date it's being built and relationship to the technology that is available now. And it will be freestanding, meaning that the children can get almost all the services they need right in the hospital. Right now, they have to go over to Tacoma General to get some services. And they're going to add a whole new section for premature babies and young adults. And another new partnership with behavioral health. And to describe it inside, it's going to be family friendly, and it's going to be so nice and calm and safe and healing for children and parents. And there's also in certain locations, there are going to be green spaces outside where the families can be. And then there's going to be a helicopter pad. So helicopters can be there. And then I just wanted to tell you a little bit about outreach of Mary Bridge right here in Gig Harbor at 4700 off of Point Fosdick. How many of you know about that center? Okay, we, with some of our hospital money, helped to donate, to give money to that new center. And in the first 3 months, they had over 900 urgent care children, over 300 specialty cases, and over 700 therapy cases. And I just have to tell you one story because it's just hit me right here in my heart. And it's like some children are born with or have later leg problems and feet problems with their feet. And so it requires special kinds of shoes and things, and they get teased because of this. And so what we also contribute to at Mary Bridge Brigade in Tacoma is money for vouchers for the children to take to Nordstrom. And this is what Nordstrom does with their suppliers. Just say there's a 10-year-old boy or 8-year-old boy, and they find out, they know exactly what's in style, what the kids are wearing. And their suppliers build shoes so that they look like the other children. For example, if one leg is shorter, then that bottom is higher. And it's brought so much joy to children. And through our Mary Bridge Brigade, we also gave to that. And we are called a guild, a brigade of volunteers. right here in Gig Harbor, and we have a store, and there are 30 guilds. And the other 29 do things like Christmas wreaths or whatever. We are all year, and we in Gig Harbor give more money to Mary Bridge than all the other 29 combined. And I just want to leave you with this motto of our store. We are just a little shop where big things happen for children at Mary Bridge Hospital. Thank you for recognizing us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for that presentation and for the information. Thank you. Okay, on the mayor's report tonight, 2 items. We have Austin Park panels. Josh, would you put the slides up? Last Thursday, the panels, I went over to Auburn last week and I picked up the panels from the fabricator. And this is the first one. And this actually says, before the beginning. If you can go back, Josh, for a second. Says, yeah, so it's says before the beginning is the first one, and that's right when you go into Tualacut Estuary, and it's a 1/4 inch, 3/16 stainless steel 1/4 inch panel, 40 inches long, about 16 inches wide, and it tells. And then the next panel is as you look at the History Museum right there, and it's the Squabobs, the Swiftwater people. And then if you go to the other side of that panel, there's, can you do the next slide, Josh? That's the other one on the left is the other panel, which says the Puyallup tribe. And then the other panel there is as you're walking on the path, and it says after Medicine Creek. And the last panel, I had to take this picture when it was still being glued. So there's actually 8 3-inch screws that are on the back of the panel that actually are drilled into the concrete to go in there, and then they're epoxy resined. So you can't see any of the screws from the front. So those are exciting information, historical, educational knowledge that the council was supportive of, that we were able to work with Linda Pitcher and the tribe to develop the history. So I encourage everyone to go take a look at it. We also should have the panels that are around the harbor over by there that are right now are removed. There's about 7 panels right now that are removed. They're being redone. And they're 2 of them are going to show the kind of appendix of what you're walking into and where everything is. And they should be ready Wednesday. And then one talks about the Lashute language. And then there's one that will talk about the estuary and why we don't use pesticides or anything like that. So those are going to be done by Wednesday. The second item is a possible property acquisition update. The council knows this, but I'm informing the public that the landowners of property adjacent to the conservation land that we are in the purchase of, in the working to purchase, have approached the city to see if we wanted to buy their land. Now, this would be west of the wastewater treatment center across from Puerto Vallarta and Haihihi. Now, this brings a rare opportunity to purchase an additional 23 acres of forested land and salmon habitat only a couple blocks away from the bay. There's already a nice road on it that crosses the North Creek, and the road actually goes all the way up to the Cushman Trail. So if this happens, we don't even have to spend $100,000 building a Cushman Trail road that we were trying to do for the last 10 years because there's already one there. The land is part of the original Squababish village, including the salmon-bearing North Creek, Donkey Creek, running right through the property and has never been built on. So it has natural large cedars, maples, firs, and pines, and are unaltered except for the existing primitive road and trail. This property is composed of 6 separate parcels,
And unless conserved, it is currently in the process of unless it is conserved, they are currently in the process of acquiring permits where they think they can build 50 homes and clear cut it, or at least cut a lot of it. But they would rather sell it to the city than have this happen. And we have made an offer on the property. We've signed a purchase sale agreement, and with the owners to try, we're trying to save it, and we're trying to close before the end of the year. So our due diligence period is 60 days, and that began on November 1st. So you're also getting a complete survey, a title report, environmental phase 1, and appraisal to complete our due diligence needed. Closing on this property, if it works, would be the 28th of December. And it's a big challenge to do this, but the opportunities do not come again. And once it's developed, it's gone. So this open space would be for everyone to enjoy. Now, myself and council are very supportive and of this rare opportunity, but we also want the public to have their chance to comment and hear about it. So at the November 22nd council meeting, which is the next one, we will have a presentation and a PowerPoint showing the land and a drone video. And then we will have public comment following the presentation. So we're telling you this tonight so that we're giving the public ample opportunity to know about this. And we'll also be posting it as everywhere we can. Any comments on this by council? Okay, great. With that, city administrator's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. Only item I want to report on is the good news of the fact that we have made an offer to an individual for the parks manager position. He has accepted. We have worked out all the terms of his employment. The only item that I need to ask council for is permission to bring him in at higher than the midpoint. It will not be at the top of the scale, but it will be in between the midpoint and the top of the scale. That is required for any position that we hire at above midpoint. So you will see an item on the consent calendar on November 22nd, describing this individual, his background, and making a request for council to approve that. His start date would be December 16th. So we're very excited. The mayor and Councilmember Markley were part of the interview process in the second go around. And when we were talking about the individuals we interviewed, it was clear that this gentleman was our number one choice. So we're very excited. We were able to work things out with him. And that's my report, Your Honor.
Thank you. Now we will open up public comment on items that are not on the agenda. Does anyone from the public here in our council chambers wish to comment on anything not on the agenda? Yes, come up to the podium and please state your first name, your address, and you have 3 minutes or less.
Juanita Martinelli, 4409 33rd Avenue, Gig Harbor. I just have a question. I had heard that there was a possibility of a homeless camp over in the Memorial Park across the street from, I think it's Peninsula Retirement.
Okay, first thing, the public comment is not a Q&A, but to the best of my knowledge, I will answer. I don't know anything about that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure. I would, before you go into social media, I would actually drive by though. Find out for yourself. Thank you. You seconded. City Administrator Tony Pasecki, were there any written comments that were turned in?
No, Your Honor, there were not.
Okay, thank you. So we've shifted to have from old business to go first to new business 1, so that we are.
Mayor, what about comments?
I'm sorry.
Online?
Yes, plus I hadn't closed it. Yes, Josh, are there any callers that wish to speak?
We have no raised hands at the moment.
Okay, can you move I can't see, if there was a hand raised, I can't see it because the slide, usually it's to the far right and that's cut off on the screen.
And I'm looking, Your Honor, and I see none.
Okay, but can he make it so that we can at least see if someone raises his hand as we go through all the other agenda items?
I think it may be a function of the camera that is putting that on the screen. I don't know, Josh, can you make it a little bit smaller?
I can't from here, unfortunately.
I'll monitor it for you, Your Honor, and I'll let you know what I see.
Okay. Okay, then I will close the public comment on non-agenda items. And with that, we will have Resolution 1218, adopting our legislative agenda. Our report tonight is from our interim city administrator, Tony Pasecki. And I'm sure we would like to see our lobbyists that we know are here too as well. Go ahead, Tony.
Well, my report really starts with inviting Josh and Annika to come up and speak to you in person for the first time in a long time.
Yay.
And they also have some exciting news about our federal government lobbyist, Dale Learn.
Oh, Annika, you're getting taller.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Pusaki and Mayor and Council. It's nice to see you. I was thinking about it in the audience. I think it was 2 years ago. This meeting must have been the last time we were in person. So very nice to be here. And as Tony mentioned, yes, my partner in DC that handles your federal work, Dale Learn, is the proud father today to Weston Gould Learn, a baby boy, and everybody is healthy and happy and doing well. So good news. Yeah, thank you.
Give him our congratulations.
I definitely will do that. Yeah, thank you. So Annika and I are going to share a little bit of this presentation. We're here tonight to present the draft 2022 proposed legislative agenda that the Intergovernmental Relations Committee has been working on. I think we've met 3, maybe 4 times this summer and fall working on this. It's well thought out and excited to be here tonight to present it to you. So we're going to just briefly go over the upcoming legislative session and what to expect. We'll do an overview of the ideas that we've been talking about, and then we'll obviously open it up for your discussion. So Annika, why don't you take the next slide?
Good to see you all tonight. So this will be the second year of the 2-year legislative biennium. It will be a short 60-day session compared to last session, which was a longer 105-day session. We do anticipate that they will end on time. 2023 is a big election year, so they'll want to wrap up pretty quickly and get back out there campaigning. So probably no special session next spring. They will be adopting their supplemental budgets, which are adjustments to the larger biennial budgets that they adopt in the odd years. There will be operating budget capacity. The state continues to have really strong revenue collection, so we might see some new program funding there. The capital budget will also have some capacity, but not as much as last session's budget, which was a larger budget. And the transportation budget continues to have some long-term revenue issues. So they are still pushing to adopt a revenue package, and those conversations are ongoing. As you remember, they were trying to have a special session this interim to pass a revenue package. It looks like, well, we know now they're not going to be doing that, but they're shifting directions so that they will be trying to pass a revenue package in the 22 session. So a little bit unusual for a short session and also an election year, but we know that that's a priority for both chambers. Any legislation that didn't pass last year will be in play for next session, along with any new policy bills as well. It will be a hybrid format. Last week, the Senate actually just adopted rules that authorizes the Senate to have in-person attendance for their senators during floor action. Committees will still be virtual, so it will be kind of a mixed environment. And then the public will be allowed to enter into the rotunda, and then Senate offices will be open, but it will be up to the member to decide whether they want to meet in person or virtually. Still waiting on the House. Expect it to be also a hybrid environment, but maybe looking a little bit different than what the Senate adopted.
Okay, thanks, Annika. So in terms of your legislative agenda, we're again recommending that you adopt 2 documents, actually. One being your legislative agenda, which is what we say the forward-facing document. It's what we would be handing the legislators. Of course, we're not meeting much in person, so we would be emailing to legislators and saying, these are the priorities that the city really wants you to take the lead on. Those will include capital budget and transportation budget requests, as we'll talk about here in a moment. And then in the second document, the policy document is more, as I think you're aware of, it's more of a conversation piece between you and us about items that we should be keeping our eye out for if there's opportunities to either advance or be defending against, or those category of bills that we spend so much time working on where we don't anticipate them, but we do end up wanting to take a position on them. So next slide, for the legislative agenda, your front page document, if you will, we do recommend continuing to push forward on the $1.1 million worth of transportation projects that the city has really been working on since it was 2017 when the Highway 16 congestion corridor study was first funded. And these three projects that add up to the 1.1 have been what we've been talking about ever since 2018. We really are in very good shape in both the House and the Senate proposals. We've had at least those three projects have been funded in the proposals they've put forward. In the Senate last year, if you recall as well, their proposal included an additional, I think it was $18 million for widening of the Willachet over expressway. So we do think when they do finally get around to adopting a revenue package, we feel pretty confident that our projects are going to be in there, but we're caught up in this overall negotiation about whether there will be a transportation revenue package and when that will happen. The Gig Harbor Sports Complex has been one of our continued priorities on the capital budget. Last year, we were successful. The legislature provided $500,000 through the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant program for the project. We feel it's appropriate to go back this next year, though there is limited capacity, and $2 million is much above the typical project funding amount that typically gets funded in the local community projects program. We do think it's appropriate and advisable to ask for $2 million this next legislative session. This, I think, as you know, would be the same request as last year. It's for the pickleball, the bocce ball courts, the picnic area, and then the event lawn and playground area. So one of our, I think we may be talking about this. I'm not going to steal the thunder. I have one more point about this that Annika is going to talk about later. We are also recommending that you include some language on your agenda, asking the legislature to clarify some of the changes that were made last year to law enforcement reform. We've heard statewide that there are problems and questions, lack of clarity about how law enforcement is supposed to implement the legislation that was passed last year. Our language in our legislative agenda is crafted really carefully to make sure that we're not perceived as saying we disagree wholeheartedly with the direction they were going, because the legislative majority has been very clear that they're not going to roll back anything they did last year, but do give us some guidance and some clarity on areas where there's been a lot of disagreement. We also are putting high priority this year on funding local culverts. As transportation continues to get talked about, we know the city has a lot of culverts, local culverts that do need to be funded and fixed for fish passage. And it's a good year to continue pushing on them, asking them for some local funding source to provide assistance with those culverts. And then the final item on our front page is retaining local control. There's, as we talked about, if you recall from our end of session report several months ago, we fought a lot last year on the city's behalf in opposition to some zoning mandates. The legislature coming down and telling cities how to exactly to do their zoning, particularly with affordable or with housing projects. This year, we do anticipate that there will be continued discussion about requiring accessory dwelling units, maybe even requiring duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes in single family zones. We know very much that retaining those decisions at the local level is important for the council and for the mayor. So we anticipate spending a good amount of time on those issues because we know they're coming. If this is just a quick illustration of how we are, what we're doing in your policy document, that second page. So there's a number of items there in that left-hand column that are left over. They're in our policy document currently. We are suggesting that you just keep them there for the time being. If I can walk through those, but I don't think I need to unless you have questions. In the middle, you can see that we are moving 2 documents from the policy document over to the front page of the legislative agenda, as I mentioned before. culvert funding and land use accessory dwelling units. And then we are adding to the policy document a statement about allowing additional time for jurisdictions to use the locally approved sales tax transportation benefit district. Currently, law allows you to have 2 10-year periods of time. After that second 10-year period of time, even if it's approved by the voters, it has to be approved by the voters. You don't have the authority to go beyond that at all. The Association of Washington Cities will be pushing a bill that will allow you to go to the voters again every 10 years. So you're not foreclosed after the second period of time if your voters agree. And we know that the TBD here in Gig Harbor has been a successful tool, and at least having that option to have the conversation with your voters after the 20 years seems like appropriate local control. We also have added a statement about continuing to have flexibility under the Open Public Meetings Act to have virtual meetings. We really are seeing, and this will be brought forward by other entities as well, it's something we think we can support. We don't need to lead the charge on. But citizens across the state really have seen and appreciate the ability to continue having remote and virtual participation in public meetings. I'm going to step aside and Ank is going to talk about next steps.
So our next steps, you all need to finalize the legislative agenda and policy documents, so hoping to adopt that. And then as Josh kind of alluded to earlier, we're working with your staff to set up kind of an open house event on the sports complex. Senator Randall really asked for this just as an opportunity to engage with some of your community members about why this project is important to them, but also to see the site and get a feel for what that project would entail. And then we're also working on setting up meetings with the 26 LD. So more to come on that as well. Next week is virtual committee assembly. So Josh and I will be attending that online. And then in December, the governor will release his proposed supplemental budgets. That's kind of the baseline for which the legislature builds their supplemental budgets off of. So it kind of kicks off the whole legislative process. And then on January 10th, that's when session begins. So that's what we have for you today.
Thank you. Our last slide is just a thanks, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you so much. Councilmember Wook.
Yes, you asked for culvert funding, and where would that come from?
We don't specify the source of funding. There's been a pretty ongoing discussion in the legislature about whether they should fund local culverts out of transportation revenues or whether it should be funded out of the capital budget. We're ambivalent, or at least we don't have a policy statement about where it comes from. The other piece that's in play, obviously, it's too bad Dale's not here. He could talk about the federal money that's coming that includes some culvert money. So really just staying flexible on how they fund it.
Okay, thank you.
I have asked Representative Kilmer's office to give us additional information specifically about the culvert funding that we were told was being worked on. And they are working to get us information. When I have it, I will forward it to the mayor and council.
Thank you.
Thank you both very much. We're pleased with all that you're doing. And you did add to this year that you were going to do grant writing too. And we really appreciate kind of even stepping up and helping us even more than we asked before. So thank you very much. And we're also looking forward to passing your contract in next month. So I don't think there'll be a problem. Councilmember Jensen.
Thanks. I think I turned my light off instead of on before. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Weiss and Ms. Vaughn. I have a question and I apologize because I guess I should have explored this more in the committee, but it's in regards to the sports complex. And Mr. Weiss, your comments about $2 million being a little bit higher than the average ask. Does the state have the opportunity to award us less than that? Are we asking an unreasonable amount? Like, I don't want all or nothing here because we want 2 million, but we take, I shouldn't say that. You know what I'm saying?
It's a very good question, council member. And yes, they certainly have the ability to appropriate less if they feel like that's either not possible or it's more appropriate. And that situation happens pretty frequently.
Great. Thank you both very much.
Thank you. Nice to see you all.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you. Josh, if you can put me over from to a panelist on the Zoom so I can see the Full thing. Thank you. Okay, we will go back to our regular schedule, which is old business number 1, which is, oh, I'm sorry, we had, yep. Is there any public comment on legislative 1218? Anyone from the public? Okay.
Your Honor, there's nobody online who has their hand raised.
Okay, great. With that, we will close the public comment. Councilmember Jensen is, okay. We will go to old business, which is second reading and adoption of ordinance.
Your Honor, did the council want to take action on this now or wait until we get to new business?
Oh, that's true. Let's do it now. Just one moment. So we have, it would be, the council can have a deliberation, but it would be to move to approve resolution 1218. Do I have a motion to do that?
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a second. Any other further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will go to old business number 1, which is second reading and adoption of ordinance 1472, Shoreline Master Program Periodic Update. The report tonight will be given by our principal planner, Carl DeSimas.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Great. Thank you very much. Good evening, council, members of the public. Before you this evening is an ordinance 1472, proposing to amend the city's Shoreline Master Program. The amendments are part and parcel of a state code required periodic update of the program. A periodic review of the program is required every 8 years on a schedule established under the Shoreline Management Act. The city's last major amendment to the program was adopted back in 2013. The scope of the periodic review is twofold. Number 1, to assure that the master program complies with applicable law and guidelines in effect at the time of the review. And number 2, to assure consistency of the master program with local government's comp plan and development regulations adopted under the Growth Management Act, if applicable, and other local requirements. The review also allows local governments to incorporate amendments it has found necessary during the administration of the program. This is the second reading of Ordinance 1472. The council considered these amendments to the program on October 25th, 2021. At that meeting, staff provided documentation constituting the entire amendment record, including a complete draft of the program with proposed amendments. Staff also noted that Ecology had provided 7 additional recommended edits resulting from their initial consistency review. Council directed staff to bring back a revised version of the amended program, including those 7 edits. The edits have been incorporated into Exhibit A to Ordinance 1472 before you this evening. That is in your packets. To assist in reviewing the edits so the council didn't have to go through the entire draft program, staff provided a separate exhibit to the council bill calling out the edits specifically. Those are found beginning on page 318 in your packets. Staff is recommending adoption of Ordinance 1472 this evening. If approved, staff will submit the amendment back to Ecology for their final approval process consistent with the Shoreline Management Act. Mayor, this concludes my presentation and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Let's see, just a moment. Okay, clarifying questions to council for Carl. Okay, then we will go to public comment. We will open up the public comment period of time. Josh, is there any callers? I don't see any callers. Any callers that would like to comment at this time, please press *9 or *6.
I see none, Your Honor.
Okay, and I've got it here now on my screen.
Okay, good.
Were there any written comments that were turned in?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, I will close the public, anyone from the public? Okay, I will close the public comment period and go to council deliberation and action. Councilmember Hines.
Move to approve ordinance 1472.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Roberts will second. Any other comments and deliberation? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you very much. I can always see your hand on the trigger. We will move to old business number 2, second reading and adoption of ordinance 1470, revising GHMC 2.21 related to the design review board. Our report tonight is from our interim city clerk, Josh Decker.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. This is the second reading of the ordinance that is going to revise the roster requirements for the design review board. Just a quick overview, the goal of this is to restrict the number of licensed architects on the DRB to 1, was previously unlimited. This also allows for the appointment of up to 2 citizens with interest and knowledge of urban design, which was previously limited to only 1. And it also changes the residency requirements to only people that live within the greater Gig Harbor area. And that is pretty much the summary of what this ordinance will do. It's here for second reading and adoption if council so chooses.
Great. Any clarifying questions from council to Mr. Stecker? All right, we will open up the public comment period of time. Tony, were there any handwritten comments that were turned in?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Anyone from the public, either in the chambers or online, feel free to press *9 or *9 or *6. Okay, I will close the public comment period of time for council deliberation and action. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance 1470?
I have my light on.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Wu.
Thank you. I move to approve ordinance number 1470.
Second.
There's a second. Any council discussion? Councilmember Markley.
Yes, thank you. So the reason for expanding the residency requirements, was that because we were having a hard time finding people in city limits with the qualifications for the design review board? Is that the purpose of expanding that?
I will let the council members that are part of that committee answer that.
Okay.
I'm happy to answer that. So actually what we did was we limited it because we are now, before you could apply to be on the design review board and there were no requirements for where you had to live at all. And so what we did this time was we said you had to live on this side of the Narrows and between the Narrows and Purdy Bridge. So we limited it actually rather than expanding it.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I thought there were restrictions in place already, but so that's good. I think that people need to live close by to be on this board because it's a really important board.
It's a really important board. It has to be large enough in order to try to get some of these professionals because it's not always easy, but we wanted it to be within the greater Gig Harbor area.
Yeah, that's great. I'm supportive.
Now, did you not limit the amount of architects too?
We did.
Yeah, you did mention that too.
She didn't ask.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Any other council questions? Councilmember Jensen.
Mr. Stecker, can you remind us what happens if somebody is serving on a board like this and then moves out of whatever area would have made them eligible?
Well, with this particular ordinance, anyone that's serving on the board right now, if they're made ineligible by this change, we're going to allow them to keep serving. For other boards, if a candidate somehow changed their residency and no longer, or somebody who's sitting on the board changed their residency, the procedure would be that we would either ask them to step down, which typically they would normally comply with, or we would take it to the board and candidate review committee and then ask them to recommend to council their removal from the board.
Thank you.
And I think the council members don't have questions who had lights are on. Okay, are there, I know we're not used to it. It's only been a year and a half or more. Okay, I don't see any other clarifying question. I don't see any other council deliberation.
We had a motion.
We already have a motion. And so all those in favor of approving old business number 2, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. We will move on to old business number 3, which is second reading and adoption of ordinance 1473, amending the 2021 budget. Report tonight is from our interim city administrator, Tony Vasecki.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mayor, members of the council, the item in front of you is a second reading and adoption of ordinance 1473 that amends the budget for a couple of small items, but mostly it's to add $500,000 of appropriation for the fish food bank. The agenda bill says specifically that the 500,000 is for the fish food bank's food bank capital campaign. However, if you read the ordinance itself, it also talks about the services that the food bank provides. Before we were able to give them any money, we need to have an agreement with them of some sort. And I have drafted one up. The city attorney is reviewing it, and it will be coming in front of you probably at the December 13th meeting. And the way I've written it, it is very wide open, and it will allow the food bank to use the funds for any of the services that it currently provides, and it's listed in the agreement. If that is all right with you, then we will move forward with that. If the intent on this was specifically for the capital campaign, please tell me, and I will amend the agreement with them to say just that. Otherwise, we recommend two things. One, approval of the ordinance to amend the budget, and two, a little clarification from council as to how the food bank is allowed to use these funds. And that's my report, Your Honor.
Thank you. Clarifying questions from council, Councilmember Rodenberg.
Yeah, they made it very clear that this $500,000 was for the capital campaign only, not to provide essential services. So I'm not sure how that got confused along the line.
And that's probably with the way I wrote the ordinance, I included some of that information in there. But if clarification is for the capital campaign only, then I will amend the agreement to say just that and only that.
Does that mean that you can just amend this ordinance, or does it mean we have to go backwards and we won't be able to?
The ordinance is generic enough that it simply says that it's there to help them provide services, and building their building helps them provide services.
Right. So if I don't have if I don't hear objection from council, then because he said it's broad enough, he can go ahead and amend and change that. Okay.
Then I would like to amend it to say that it was for the capital campaign only.
Second.
Okay, clarify.
So where I would change that is in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, whereas it would say if the city desires to contribute $500,000 to the Gig Harbor Peninsula Fish Food Bank to help it build its new building.
That's good.
Okay. Okay, also, I had talked, so when we open up the public comment, the public can also comment on that as well, at the amendment as well as the motion. I had, as you all know, I had reached out to the boat shop, letting them know that we would pay their balance that, when they had done the presentation. And we had in the budget already that money. It was $297 that we said we were going to pay the boat shop. And I saw that it had said $262 or so. So now they have not incurred all those expenses yet. And when I talked to Guy Hoppin, some of those things they actually haven't done yet. So we'll make sure that some of those are in our 2022. There's probably just a small amount of that still will be in our 2022 budget so that we can carry that forward. But otherwise, that money is already in our budget for 2021, just so people are aware of that. And they will get paid. They've already invoiced us. I haven't even read Guy's response.
So I think the immediate need is the 16,000 for the crane, is that?
Yeah, and that, as I said, it's already in the budget.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that should cover all that. I just wanted council to know all that. Okay, with that, we'll open up public comment. Tony, were there anyone from the public that sent in an email?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, now we'll open it up to anyone in the chambers or our callers. And we have Pamela Lesser. You have 3 minutes. Please say your name and address, and you can go ahead and go.
Thank you. Pamela Leisure, Capital Campaign Manager, Gig Harbor Fish Food Bank. I am here to thank the mayor and the city council for your consideration of this gracious gift of $500,000 from that allotment. And on behalf of the board of directors, the more than 200 volunteers, and especially the clients we serve, those in need in the greater Gig Harbor community, we appreciate your consideration of this most amazing gift. And we just want to humbly thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you. Anyone else from the public that wishes to speak? Okay, I will close the public comment and I know. And there, do I have a Councilmember Rodenberg?
So we're just going to vote on the amendment that I made,
Yes.
and then we'll go to the,
Yep.
okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, I don't see any lights on. So we're voting on the amendment to make sure that this is for capital expenses of the food bank. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, the amendment passes. And now we will go to the original motion, which is second reading and adoption of ordinance 1473, amending the 2021 budget. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, with that, we will move.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
before we go into new business, can we take a 5-minute break?
if there's no objection, sure. Okay, we will be back at 6:35. Okay, we are back from our break and we are on new business 1 we've already dealt with. So with our lobbyists, we did that prior to old business. So it's new business 2, which is resolution 1217, setting public hearing date on Hall Street ROW vacation. Tonight to give that report is our Public Works Director, Jeff Langhill.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'm going to bring up on screen a aerial view of the parcel we're referencing. Okay, I'm going to zoom in, but just for your reference, the highlighted teal parcel is the one we're talking about. And it can be a little confusing, but there's a section of right-of-way right here between Goodman Avenue and Milton Avenue. That is the original 1890 plat of Artina. That is called Hall Street. So if you wonder, where's Hall Street? Never heard of it. That's why, because that's where it is located. So the resolution for tonight is setting a public hearing that will take place hopefully on December 13th to discuss and take comment on the proposed right-of-way vacation. The right-of-way vacation that's being proposed here is a non-user statute right-of-way vacation. And essentially per RCW, the city must vacate this right-of-way unless we are using it for transportation purposes or have existing utilities in the right-of-way. And then we can just assign ourselves a easement for those. So again, we're just setting this or moving this resolution forward to request a public hearing at the December 13th meeting. Any questions on that?
I don't see any clarifying questions from council. Is there any now I'm going to open up the public comment period. Was there any public comment turned in, Tony?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. And then if you, could you exit the PowerPoint? Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any callers that wish to comment on this? Please press *9 or *6 on your phone or your computer. Okay, I will close the public comment. Now we will go to council deliberation and action. Just one moment. some reason, just a minute. Okay, that's okay, do I have a move to approve resolution, Councilmember Hines?
Yes, move to approve resolution 1217.
Second.
There's a second, Councilmember Markley. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstain? Motion passes 7-0. Sorry, I was trying to find the right sheet. Okay, we will move on to new business item 3, which is public hearing on revenue source. Tonight, giving the report is our Finance Director, Dave Rodenbach.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Good evening. This is the annual public hearing on revenue sources. We do this in order that we're able to pass the tax levy for next year. And this is a Department of Revenue state law requirement. And so you have in front of you a summary of revenues for the general fund for 2019, 2020, 2021 year-end estimate. And then the part we're considering is the adequacy of the revenues for the 2022 budget request. And so we're looking, first of all, at the beginning fund balance for 2022. It looks like about 5.67 million. And it looks pretty reasonable that we're going to hit that number or exceed it, because we just got our revenue report for October, and it looks like we're only at 50% of revenues for or expenditures through October 31st for the general fund. So given that, it's unlikely we're going to catch up to the budget number for expenditures in 2 months. And we're tracking to be about 3.2 million in excess of budgeted revenues for 2022. So it looks like we might have a little bit of good news on that front in that area. And with that, I'll just open up to questions in the public hearing.
Great. Any clarifying questions from council? Okay, we will open it up to the public for public comment portion. Was there any public comment turned in, Tony?
Your Honor.
Okay, anyone from in the chamber or online wish to comment on this, please press *9 or *6 or come to the podium. Okay, I will close the public comment portion and go to any clarifying questions from council. Okay, with that, there is no action needed, and we will move on to new business item 4, which is resolution 1219, 2022 property tax levy, and resolution 1220, 2022 excess property tax levy. And again, tonight, the report is our Finance Director, Dave Rodenbach.
Thank you, Mayor. And as the mayor said, we're requesting 2 actions here, approval of 2 separate resolutions. The first one is for the regular property tax levy. And this levy is about 3.2 million. It's 108, almost 109,000 more than last year's levy. The 1% portion of that is about $36,000. 69,000 of that is due to new construction improvements. And then there's a refund levy in there. And that would be the regular tax levy and pertinent to the first resolution. The second resolution, we're requesting a $250,000 levy for the debt service on the Ed and Boat bonds. And that would calculate out to about 6 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, and this is going to be 2 separate motions when we get to it. And clarifying questions from council. Councilmember Franich.
Yeah. When are the bonds retired for Ed and Boat, Dave?
Ooh, I have that in the budget here. I think about 3 years. Let me look that up here.
As he looks that up, does any other clarifying questions from council?
2024 is when they're retired.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, with that, I would like a motion for the first one from council, 12 and 19. Councilmember Hines.
Move to adopt resolution number 1219, certifying the regular property tax levy.
Second.
Second was from Councilmember Wook. Any further discussion on this one? All those in favor say aye.
Mayor, was there public comment? Was there public comment?
Yes, there was.
There was?
Yep. All those opposed? All those abstain? Motion passes for the first one of 1219, 7-0. And the second one, and I had asked if public wanted to comment on either of those, I had said. On the second one is by council. Do I hear anything on 12? Is that 1220? Yeah, 1220. Councilmember Wook.
I move to adopt resolution number 1220, certifying the 2022 excess property tax levy.
Second.
There's a second. Any further deliberation? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We were on number 5 of public hearing, first reading of ordinance 1474, 2022 budget. Our report tonight is from our finance director, Dave Rodenbach.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Finally, we made it to this point. It's been a long journey, hasn't it? On the first page of the council bill, I have the budget. This is total across all city funds for $118,113,082. Before we even get into the nuts and bolts, we're going to change that. And I'll tell you why real quickly. It'll be 118,213,082. And the reason for that is the requested amendment to the senior center distribution of $100,000 we had left in the general fund, but we actually changed it after this went out to a transfer to the seniors fund. Okay, so that's the $100,000 increase. So this money will be transferred now into the senior fund and just captured there until used for the appropriate purposes for the seniors. Okay, so before we get going, that's what I wanted to share with you there. The table on the first page is my attempt to show you how we got from the number as published in the preliminary budget. It was 116,013,082. And those changes take us to the 118,113, and then I just gave you the change to get us to the 118,213. If you have any questions on that part, just stop me anywhere and I'll try and make it more clear. Okay, with that, we'll move on. On the second page, we have under Board or Committee recommendations. These are the changes as we heard them from council through the 4 study sessions. And I'm not hugely confident that we actually nailed it, but I think we pretty much got the spirit of what council had requested. And if you'll see the items here, the vehicles and equipment, we have the Ford F-350 pickup with the snow equipment. We have the Vector truck storage on the next page. Under non-departmental, we have the Harbor Houston Museum, and that's at 117,000. And the senior citizens, instead of programming, it should be reserved for senior center building. And that's 100,000 only. The 10,000 is for programming. We're transferring out 1,150,000 to the Park Development Fund. We had to change that due to a rollover of the Jerkovich Pier Advanced Mitigation. And then the home port. And that's the net effect of that to cover those. And then we have the fish objective, which we removed. Remember, that was 200,000 for 2022. We took that out because we did the 500,000 in 2021. Under administration, we removed 14,200 from the general fund. It really was about 40,000 total budget wide to hire the human resources assistant mid-year as opposed to putting a full year budget in there for that.
And that was after the new administration does a review of the HR functions.
And then we added a employee satisfaction survey for 5,000. And in the bill here, I made a mistake and it says increase in 30. And that was an old iteration that I had in my budget detail. And so I reduced it. The net effect was a reduction of 25,000. in the HR for that. Under police, we removed the police staffing study for 40,000, and we added the detective sergeant position back. And so that was a net decrease to police in 30,000. Street capital, we added 2 more mid-block rapid flash beacon crosswalk systems. And so that objective was increased from 50,000 to 100,000. Park development, we added 290, 180 for Jerkovich Pier and the home port 110. We slid that forward. Lodging tax, the budget there increased because we added a revenue source. We added contributions. We had, I think, 23,000. We added 72,000 to that to increase it to 95,000. And then under sewer capital, the digester upgrade, centrifuge, ammonia control was moved forward to 2022. That was planned to be done this year, but we're not going to get to it, so we rolled it forward. And that's all I have for changes. On the budget ordinance, we showed, we did strikeout to show you the original budget, the original preliminary budget, and then as changed is underlined. With the exception for senior capital or senior services, it says, I think maybe we'll change it to senior capital, and it says 100,599, that would be 200,599. And with that, I'll entertain any comments or questions.
Councilmember Wu.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to, excuse me, I'd like to go back to administration, human resources, add staffing survey. The $5,000 was for a employee survey, satisfaction survey follow-up. Is that what this staffing survey is?
That's what that is. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Rodenberg.
Yes, the police staffing study was going to be $40,000. So are you saying that the HR staffing study is just $5,000?
As I understand it, we're not doing an HR staffing study. We're doing an employee satisfaction survey.
That's correct.
It was my understanding we were going to do the staffing study at half year after we saw how the add-on HR analyst was.
That is not the direction that I remember hearing, but if that's something council wants to do,
Does
then.
anyone else remember that?
I remember that council had talked of waiting until the new administration came in and with the city administrator and the mayor, and then letting them make a decision, which would still go back to council. But that's what.
And we kept the budgeted funds for the HR analysts at half a year, assuming that it would take the new administration a few months to get a feel for what was going on in HR.
So then we would amend the 2022 budget sometime in 2022 to handle the HR budget?
With the way we have this proposed, the HR analyst position is funded for the second half of the year. And we have 5,000 for an employee satisfaction survey. The staffing study was removed.
Okay, I would be curious if any other council people agreed, but I thought the HR analyst was going to be hired as soon as possible.
No, it's the HR analyst that's going to be hired. This is the HR assistant.
You just said analyst, though.
My apologies for using the wrong term.
So the HR assistant is half year.
Correct. The analyst is full year.
And somewhere in there, we'll amend the budget to handle the HR staffing study.
If you want.
If in fact it's decided to do
if we
it.
believe we need a staffing study after doing the new admin review, they will come back to council and ask for additional funds to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Markley.
Yes, Dave, I don't remember the name of the fund, but it is specifically for crosswalks. Is it Pedestrian Safety Fund?
I believe it is. I have to look at my table of contents here.
Looking at the Public Works Director and see if he's nodding his head up and down and giving.
Yes, okay.
That is it, yes.
So I think that there was adequate funds in there for the crosswalk that was brought to our attention for the walkers that are going to Swiftwater Elementary from the neighborhood behind Target there's a specific area that would be ideal for a crosswalk to be put there. It's not safe where they currently have to cross. And so I believe Director Langhelm, we've talked about this. I think there's adequate funding, but how do we move that? How do we make a motion and not, maybe not right now in this meeting, but to move that forward, to take a look at putting that crosswalk there for those kids?
And I might add that this was, I asked for this 100,000 to have 2 flashing beacon crosswalk systems on hand,
Yes.
and they weren't reserved anywhere. So.
Oh, okay. So those are
To have in stock,
have in stock in case we come up with, in case there's other
just
needs.
like that example.
Perfect. Okay. And that's in addition to what's already in the pedestrian safety fund?
Yep.
Great.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I just want to, the pedestrian safety fund is on page 131 of your budget, Fund 104. It states, install various crosswalks with RRFBs, rapid rectangular flashing beacons, and install adjacent sidewalks where identified in the Transportation Improvement Program list and recommended by the Public Works Committee. So we would just need to look at the list and then talk to the Public Works Committee to move that forward.
Great.
And question, the crosswalk that we would like on Soundview and Hunt below Wilco, that's not part of this 100,000 where it's already in the budget separately. Is that correct?
Well, just to be clear, there was $50,000 in the budget for 2 crosswalk systems. One was the one along Soundview Drive near Hunt.
Right.
And then there was 50,000 added to that. So it's 100,000 total.
Okay. Yeah, and that one's important. There's a bus stop there. There's a lot of people can't get across the street there. There's apartments. Good. Okay.
Yeah, I'll note it says increase to 100,000, not increase by 100,000.
Okay, great.
But we still have the 215,000 that's already in that pedestrian safety fund. That does that include that 100,000 or?
No, that's separate.
That's separate.
The
Okay.
100,000 is under streets capital.
That's what okay. That's what I thought. Great. So we should have adequate funding to do that.
Yes, we do.
Okay, amazing. Great.
Thank you. Councilmember Denson.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Wook was first. I apologize. Oh, Councilmember Denson.
Yeah, just 2 quick questions. Going back to HR where it says add staffing survey, 30,000. I'm just confused. That's the employee engagement survey, the follow-up?
Yes, it is.
And why is it 30,000? Because I thought it only cost 5,000.
I made a mistake on that. My original budget detail information had from a previous session, 30,000, and then we changed. And I threw that in there when I made this.
Okay, sorry.
And then when we reviewed it after it had been sent out to council, the error of my ways was pointed out and I changed it.
Okay, perfect. I thought I just was getting confused about what we were talking about. And then my other question is, we made a lot of tweaks to the budget. Are we going to get a new copy of the budget before the next meeting so we can confirm?
You're not going to get a new copy of this part. It's just a lot of, that's a huge request and we don't have the staff to make it exactly perfect before, we have to pass this by year end. And what you're really passing are just the numbers for each fund. Council intent is expressed through the budget document, and the budget document is simply to understand the context behind the numbers that we're presenting to you and what we propose to do. I don't, it's not binding in any way on staff and all that. And as I understand the budget process, council's ultimate control is we have to come back to you with contracts to accomplish the stuff that's in here. And so that's where you ultimately have us, down to your intent and what you want.
But once we have the budget document that is is the outline, it's the plan of how we're going to spend the money. Once we have that finished, we will get that to council. And I guarantee you that between the finance director, myself, and the mayor, we are going through that document carefully to make sure that every change that the council had requested and directed be in that document.
And we expect it somewhere around the first of the year. It usually bleeds a little bit into the first week, second week, because of copying issues and whatnot.
It took several months just to get this one pulled together.
So we won't have it before we vote on it?
What you're voting on is the dollars that are in each of the funds. That's
Tonight,
how.
I get that.
Yes.
but I meant the itemized budget, which we have a draft already.
Yeah,
We won't be getting a updated one of those.
you will not be getting that for the meeting on the 22nd. There's just too many changes and fixes that need to be done in that.
That's the issue, is there's so many changes
Yeah, that's a little
that
concerning.
it's, it's.
Well, the changes that affect the numbers you have in front of you. Okay, the vernacular and the wording changes, really, they're separate.
But there was a lot of policy stuff that we discussed that we're not going to know if it's in the budget until, a month or so after we pass the budget.
We can probably give you the actual pages that have changed. I don't know that we can do the whole document because it's so, we just don't have the staff. It's so interrelated and there's so many connections.
Pages
But
would be fine.
We can give you the pages with red line.
Okay.
And they won't be summarized in the council bill, but they'll be back there for you to look at.
Okay, so knowing that, I guess we just want to make sure that we've got enough information that we know that some of the bigger items are in here. Like, for example, the Homeport Pier, it just says transfer out park development. It doesn't say anywhere here that the Homeport Pier is included in these numbers. I know somebody said it was, but I don't think it's called out anywhere.
Well, that would be in the change to Park Development Fund, which if you look on the front, we increased that budget by 380,000. And that's the net effect of the Djerkovich Pier and the Homeport.
I guess I would at least want the Homeport mentioned there. We're mentioning the Djerkovich Pier, the Homeport's, equally important.
I think what would be best if we got the pages that showed the changes. So where there's changes, if like the Homeport was moved from 2023 to 2022 on the 6 years, 6 year, I think it's CIP, but either way, if like that, if they saw that showed that it was in 2022, those any changes, I think would be good to show.
We'll do that.
Great.
I guess my last comment. Now I need to take a look at this with a closer eye. The Djerkovich Pier mitigation, we're not doing that unless we have assurance from the Army Corps or whoever it is that this can be allocated and credited, that's the word I'm looking for, to the Homeport Pier, correct? So this is just a placeholder in case we get that assurance?
Yes, this is a placeholder. I talked to, we're working with, what we're working on is to get an MOU so that we can bank it. And if we can do that, then we can remove it at the same time as the dock is being built, which would then cost about $50,000 versus do it at a later time, that's like 180. So if we can't, if we can't get reassurance, just, no matter what, they won't. Jeff, can you speak to this? Because it's like that they said, yes, you can bank the mitigation, but then at the same time, they say, even if you do it at any given time, we're not going to give you reassurance. It probably will work, but that's just how we operate. Can you clarify some of that? We are trying to do this there's a public hearing coming up. This is on council, but we're trying to make sure that we can bank it and for the Homeport. Otherwise, we probably won't do it. Go ahead.
Yes, I mean, that's a great summary. None of the agencies, federal agencies, state agencies will be able to say with absolute certainty that if we take out the Djerkovich Pier and that will be fully utilized for future mitigation. They say it's extremely likely, but they can't say in any of their documents that it's guaranteed.
But I also would like clarity on council. I mean, that's the avenue we're going. But just so you know, if you call the Fish and Wildlife, they don't answer their phone. They say they're closed. And it took Jeff and I 2 hours to reach someone, which we actually did not. Then we had to call the governor's assistant for us. And I mean, we've spent dozens of hours on this with 3 agencies, and they've had this since August. So there's no reason for us. This was supposed to happen a year and a half ago, and then now we're on 2 years. So if council isn't supportive of the MOU saying this, then there's no reason for Jeff and I and staff and our lobbyists are now involved and to get going on this. So if there's a lot of lights on other issues that we're going to talk on the budget. So Is council, I guess what we're asking, is council supportive of the MOU to bank this towards the mitigation of the home port with what Jeff has said?
Well,
Yeah.
Well,
What I thought.
that's the only way I'm supportive of it,
Right.
is if we can bank it. You weren't saying that there's no such thing as mitigation bank, were you?
Well, for wetlands, yes, there is such a thing. And that way there's a whole structure set up for that. What we're doing here over water marine mitigation is there's not a setup structure. And so that's why we're having to go down these paths that are not usual. And so we're kind of just working with them in order to have these agreements put in place so that we can do something that's not normal. Now, the MOU is with Department of Fish and Wildlife, and that will require state approval and signature and council approval signature. So our goal is to have it before council as soon as possible because we're getting ready to go out to bid with the advanced mitigation project.
But Jeff, with what you just said, is we've been told that there will not be a 100% ironclad guarantee that we'll be able to use that as a mitigation in the near future when we actually go to rebuild or when we go to build the home port pier.
But also, did they also not say that when you go to build it, there's not proof right now that you can use it too?
Well, what they said was they need to weigh the two projects together typically is what they do. They look at the new project and they look at the existing, what you want to use for mitigation, and they compare them. So they said they couldn't even really comment on that. It's what they do usually. We do that on a routine basis with our overwater structures, but they couldn't say for sure.
I'm not sure who went first, so Councilmember Markley.
So even if we do an MOU and that doesn't guarantee that they'll use it, is really the only sure way to guarantee that that will go toward the home port is to wait until we're building the home port and then take that away, just demolish that old pier then, even though it's going to cost more. What did you say the cost difference was, Mayor Kuhn? But it's either 50,000 while we're working on the Jerkovich Pier or Ansich Pier, or it's
180 or so. Is that kind of what you think?
180.
But the rough cost estimates from the consultant were $50,000 in mobilization, demobilization.
Yep. And there's three things to consider here too. There's if it starts falling into the bay, will they let us mitigate something that's not there?
I can't say for sure. It's likely because once it falls in the bay, it's going to be sitting on the seabed and we'll use that for mitigation by removing that. So I would assume so, but I can't guarantee that.
So in your professional opinion, what do you think is the smartest way to go?
What I'll say,
I don't want to put you on the spot. I think we're all just sort of like, well.
we've been working at this for a while, as the mayor said. There's definite benefits to getting this pier removed now, environmental benefits, cost benefits. But if you're asking me, can we guarantee that the demolition and mitigation will be used strictly for or along with the commercial fishing home port construction? The only way to do that guaranteed is to have one permit that permits both projects at the same time so that they connect.
Okay. And I guess my next question and last question for Finance Director Rodenbach would be, if we were to save the money now and hope that we have that mitigation, but we end up not having that mitigation, do you know, maybe this is for Jeff, do you know what the cost would be to get mitigation for the home port? Like how much more would this raise the cost of the home port if they denied it and we didn't get this mitigation? What kind of numbers are we looking at there?
I can't say for sure that mitigation for overwater marine structures is getting more and more costly because it's getting harder to find. The easy low-hanging fruit have been completed already. We've done that with our marine outfall project. There are homeowners, property owners along the shoreline of Gig Harbor that have mitigation, but they see the value in that and they want to be paid for that. So it's a negotiation.
Okay.
Councilmember Franich.
Well, I can't see, I mean, this is a problem with government right here. And this is when I always talk about changing the culture of government, that we can't get assurances that we're going to be able to bank this mitigation for when the home port gets built. I can't see burning up the potential banking ability of removing the Jerkovich Pier, even though it's going to save money in the short term. I just believe that unless we can get assurance, and I won't be here, so it's going to be up to the other council to decide, but I would sure hope that they would not move forward with taking out the Jerkovich Pier until we had absolute assurance that we were going to get credit for it. Otherwise, even though it's going to be more costly to remove it in the future, at least when we're going to build a home port, we've got that mitigation there to use. So, and I don't know if we could just stay in, I mean, if it's in the budget, would it have to come back to the council or the future council for approval?
Yeah, like Dave said, pretty much everything you approve in here, it still comes to you before we spend the money. Yes.
May I respond to Councilmember Franich's comment? In order to meet fish window timelines, in looking at the milestones for this project, in the pier must be demolished before February 15th of next year. Working backwards, that means we have to award a contract to a contractor before the end of 2021. So, and we have to get an MOU in place before we don't have to, it would be likely we would want an MOU in place before we award a contract. So it will be with this council if we are going to do the work in between now and February 15th of 2022.
And even though, and we, it gives us direction tonight, whatever you do, but if we don't move forward, which we probably will get the banking, but there's no absolute sure. If we don't do that, the dock will be done, just so you know, the Ansich dock will be done. And that dock will be there, you'll start all over again. And that dock will be there, that decrepit dock, as everyone walks by, all the kayakers and everyone, that will be there for many, many years. Because it's going to take 2 or 3 years to build the home port. So just so you know, it's if you don't do it, if you stall on this, which is your choice, it will be there until the home port's built, which will probably be 2 or 3 years. So you'll have a beautiful park and you'll be looking at this as you walk by to get to the dock. So Councilmember Wu.
Yeah, thank you. So if we choose to do this and not do this now and do it with the home port, does it get taken down before the home port is built? What is the time frame?
It would likely be taken, if we wait and don't award a separate contract to have the Jerkovich Pier removed now,
Right.
it would likely be taken down at the same time or under the same construction contract that the commercial fishing home port is built.
So it might not be years and years and years. It might be the same time that we are, but it looks like if we don't do it now, then it looks like it's going to be 2023 because of the fish window. Is that what I'm hearing?
Because of the fish window and what I understand from the November 1st study session with council is that the commercial fishing home port has been moved back into permitting and design in 2022 and construction in 2023. Of course, that assumes we get through our permitting and design in 2022 so that we can award a contract in 2023.
So do we have any idea when we are likely to get an MOU from Fish and Wildlife?
As Mayor said, we're working with many state agencies and our lobbyists to try and have that conversation with Department of Fish and
If we don't, our goal is we basically have to get that within the next 2 or 3 weeks. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And we've actually been trying for 4 years. Now, I would like to say that the fishermen, when we had discussions with them many years ago, they were not as concerned they said that we can find mitigation. If many of you remember, they were pretty adamant of, if we have to mitigate, we can find it. The fishing family said that. So just throwing that out there, what I heard. Did you have further comments? You have your.
I have something on the budget. Do you want
Yeah,
me to take my
let's-
light off right now?
No, you can leave on, but let's finish this up first before we go on. I just want direction, really. I want to know what council wants us to do because it's a lot of hours. Councilmember Denson.
I think we need to move forward and abandon the efforts at the mitigation this year. You guys have worked really hard, and I think we would have all liked to have seen the pier come down and have that mitigation secured, and you've given it a yeoman's effort to do that. But it just doesn't seem like it's possible to happen within a couple weeks
Well,
in
we're-
time to award a contract and then get it done during the fish window time.
Well, if you want to, so I mean, this is the last hurdle. I mean, we've been going on this for 2 years. If
But
they give us the MOU, that's the last.
And with the MOU, I mean, I think we understand that it's not 100%.
Well, then
and-
that's a different story. But don't have it be because we've exhausted our effort. We've got 1 or 2 more weeks to try.
But I'm not comfortable with the MOU unless it's 100% sure that we're going to have that mitigation.
That's-
So
and
it would be
council-
my vote to wait until we
Okay,
build that.
Council, let's just go down the road. Councilmember Rodenberg, which way would you want to go?
I would wait.
Councilmember Wook,
Yeah, I support Councilmember Denson.
you wait. Councilmember Hines. You got it.
Do you think you can pull this off the next couple of weeks? I would not have a problem saying, hey, let's give you that couple of weeks and then modify the budget, okay? Even if it means the last meeting in December, okay? To basically make an informed decision rather than trying to guess, okay? So where I'm at is not to do anything right now. Stay on the path you're on, okay? And if it doesn't work out, boom, we change it in the first meeting in December.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Framich.
I agree with Councilmember Denson, Rodenberg, Wook, and Himes.
Okay, for formalities, I will go on. I don't want to, Councilmember Eversole.
I say go for it because I mean, a letter can be written in 30 minutes. You can make a quick phone call, maybe get lucky, lightning might flash and you get it there and then all you got to do is award the contract.
Okay, Councilmember Markley.
Yeah, I like Councilmember Himes's idea of just, whether this comes back at the first meeting in December and we really know what's going on, make a decision then. But I think we do need to move forward as well.
Okay. Okay, I guess we're going to abandon it. Jeff, looks like there was 4-3 and we're going to abandon our efforts and they can start all over in future years.
Okay, so just to be clear, our consultant is getting ready to advertise or working with the city to getting ready to advertise for bids for the demolition. So I will put a stop on all of that.
Yes.
And we will stop with our discussions with Department of Fish and Wildlife and our lobbyists at this point. And we'll move those efforts forward to focus on the design and permitting of the commercial home port. Is that what I'm understanding? Okay.
Councilmember Himes, didn't you say like, let's not make a decision right now, let's let them continue on the path of trying to get this done in the next 2 weeks?
Yes, absolutely. In
And
fact,
then if they can get this done
Why
and we
not?
do have a guarantee of then we pass it at the December 13th
Exactly.
meeting?
We crawl over miles of broken bottles trying to save $100,000 on something. And we're busy throwing what's the difference here?
$130,000.
$130,000 because we can't wait 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
Oh, no,
Come on.
my notion is to keep trying to get this in cement that we are going to get this banking done.
Yeah, that's
For
where
sure.
I'm-
I don't want to
That's-
abandon it right now.
That's what I was gonna say too, is let's not abandon all your efforts that you've been working so hard to do. If you're at the last hurdle, keep going and then let's see what kind of guarantee we can get. because miracles happen. Maybe they can put it an ironclad guarantee that we can use that for the home port, but we won't know if you stop now and just short of potentially getting this done. So I would think bringing it back December 13th with a final answer on what you've been able to accomplish between now and then would make the most sense rather than just kill it now.
Exactly.
But you're not going to go out for a contract.
Well, we wouldn't award one. I mean, the theory is that the approach would be to put an MOU on the agenda for December
It still
13th.
comes back to council.
And then after, oh, we're going out to advertise is what I'm hearing. I apologize. I thought I heard Councilmember Franich say he agreed with Councilmembers Denson, Rodenberg, and Wook.
And yeah, that was
And so
confusing.
that was
so-
confusing because they had contradictory statements.
Oh, well, I did not realize that Councilmember Denson, Rodenberg, and Wook wanted to completely abandon the idea and not keep trying.
That sounds good. So we will keep trying. We have 4-3 and we will keep trying
I
and it
think we
will
need to
come back to council.
I think the perspective though is this MOU has to have an ironclad guarantee that we can use that mitigation.
The good news is that when we bring it back to you, you can look at the language, and if it's not 100% guaranteed to your satisfaction, or if when we get it and it says, well, maybe we will, maybe we won't, we'll let you know, and we may abandon it at that point, but we don't have a document to even evaluate right now.
And so basically you'll still have a final say no matter what.
Absolutely.
So
Okay.
how much more money are we spending now with the continued work before December 13th? Are we spending
This
any
is time.
funding?
This is time.
The consultant will spend minimal amount of time to help us get this project out to bid, some staff time. It's minimal.
Okay.
Nowhere near 100.
But it wouldn't be going out to bid until after the MOU on December 13th?
No, it would have to go out to bid before then because we would need to award a contract for construction based on the bid opening at the December 13th meeting so that the contractor could get all of their documents submitted and be on site.
And if you don't like the wording of the MOU, we simply don't award the contract to demo the old doc.
With that part of it. Okay, so great. So now we're back to other topics on the budget. Councilmember Wu.
Thank you. I'm going back to administration under human resources. The hire assistant, does that come back to council before the assistant is actually hired?
The way I heard council's direction was to keep the position in the budget. However, have the new administration conduct some sort of a review, analysis of the need for that, and then report back to council the results of that before moving forward with a recruitment to hire that position.
So it would come back to council?
That's the way I heard it.
Thank you.
I see Councilmember Markley shaking your head up and down.
Did you have a Councilmember Franich? And do you have another, your light still on? Councilmember Franich?
Yes, well, mine is not about numbers. Mine is more about, and that's why I would be real interested to see the final pages on some of the narratives. I just am still going, well, I'm still here. I'm still going to lobby towards trying to get that sidewalk, that stretch of sidewalk from the duplex on Harbor View to the Bow viewing platform.
And the Public Works Director and I talked about that. He's working on an item to put into the budget to present to council.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so we will actually, I don't see any more clarifying questions for the moment, so we will open up the public comment portion of new business number 5. Tony, were there any comments that came in from email or written?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. If there's anyone from the public that wishes to come speak on this. You've been very patient. Thank you.
Need to turn the mic on.
Okay, and then state your name and address if you would, please.
I'm Joy Schultz, 4217 27th Avenue, 98335. And I'm here to speak specifically on the $100,000 allocation for the senior center capital budget. And just want to thank everyone for the forethought and really thinking about seniors and the permanent home. we've had quite a journey since we left the Boys and Girls Club. And this will certainly help us move our capital campaign forward, because it will bring that up to $200,000. And, the seniors are always asking, when are we going to get our own home? And where can it be? And we've been looking for, we've been keeping our eyes and ears open for available land that's suitable, and for even brick and mortar structures, but that's more of a challenge because we do need to build out a commercial kitchen. But, people always have suggestions of where we can look and talk about and to people about. So we're looking. And then COVID came, and that was both a curse and a blessing to us, if you can believe that. We locked our doors along with everybody else for 15 months, and we just couldn't desert the seniors. And so we got our tiny little brain cells together, and I think we served the seniors in really creative and remarkable ways. I mean, we served over 10,000 meals to seniors. That was self-sustaining program through their shelter in place meal program. And piggybacked on that was the Pierce County Fresh from the Farm Produce Program. We delivered, volunteers delivered 200 to 250 meals and produce every week. For the produce was 15 weeks and the meals was 13 months. We delivered that. We also created an e-newsletter that goes out still weekly to let folks know, not just seniors, folks know what we're doing. If you want to be on that, just send me your email address. We created early on technology tutorials for seniors with arrows and pictures and all kinds of descriptions on how they can get in touch with their loved ones through social media, FaceTime, Facebook, Zoom, Skype, and those are still on our website. We also had the very successful vaccination program partnering with Virginia Mason Franciscan Health. And we called over 600 seniors in the community and got literally scheduled 300 seniors vaccination appointments, which were almost impossible to get. And, the power of watching businesses, organizations, agencies, and our volunteers was amazing. So an unknown author said, it might take a year, it might take a day, but what's meant to be will always find its way. We will find a permanent solution, and your help will lead us on that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Councilmember Denson.
Joyce, would you come back up and talk about the event you have in case folks in this room are not yet registered?
Saturday, we have our first annual fundraiser, and the funds will support our programs, services, and outreach. And it is called Indulge a Sip and Savor Experience. So go on our Facebook, go on our website, buy a ticket, or else for 10 lousy dollars, you can just join the auction and bid on some of the auction items. So thank you.
Is that just an online event, or is that something?
No, it's a hybrid event. Actually, we've cut back our in-person. It's at the Gig Harbor Yacht Club. We cut back the attendance in person live from 200 to 100 people. But you can also pick up your food. It's charcuterie boards. You can pick up your food and take it home and bid all you want on your auction items from your home.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joyce. Thank you. We're still in public comment unless you had something.
To say to Joyce?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I just want to, Joyce, thank you so much for the Senior Center, and thank you for everything you're doing for seniors in this community. Sometimes seniors' voices are not heard so much. So thank you for being that voice for them and for coming for us tonight and speaking. I hope that this amount stays in the budget for years to come until you find a home.
Thank you. Thank you. And now we will turn to our callers. You have 3 minutes. State your name and address. First caller is Michael Perot. Go Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thanks. Michael Perot, P.O. Box 1266 Gig Harbor. I'm here tonight to talk to you about page 144 of the budget, which is the Water Division Capital. I noticed that you have allocated $2 million of the American Rescue Plan Act funds, or ARPA funds, for that. And I just wanted to point out that I think it's not the best use of funds to help folks during a pandemic. Our water utility is the most limited of the utilities serving our citizens. That being, there's Harbor Water, there's Rainier View Water, there's Stroh's Water, there's Wells, and there's all sorts of other small water districts. People can't switch to city water. So subsidizing city water doesn't help a lot of people, and particularly those who probably could use it more than most. So the Harborland RV or mobile homes park over 38th and Hunt, and some of the older neighborhoods in the community where people tend to be on fixed incomes, you're not meeting, you're not helping them. And you can't give money to them because that'd be a gift of public funds, giving this to their water districts. So, and helping, I know there's been talk of helping the sewer utility with some of these ARPA funds. Just keep in mind that much of our community doesn't connect to the sewer system, and it's not something that they can easily do without millions of dollars to extend a sewer line or put in a lift station. And normally these have been, our sewer's been expanded by development, and that funds the expansion. So it does go to areas outside the city in the UGA. So folks can't just hook up. So giving money to that utility wouldn't help those in need. Again, a place like the Harborland, our mobile home court over there on 38th and Hunt, they're on septic. So you're not helping them. That's just an example. But you would be helping the Washington State Department of Corrections and many people outside the city limits if you allocated money to the sewers from ARPA money. The lines go all the way to Purdy, people who aren't here aren't citizens of Gig Harbor. The broadest of the utilities, stormwater, as many of you know, I suppose, from the recent work on the rates for stormwater, is not an equitable distribution either. A lot of the legacy properties in town, commercial properties that have massive impervious cover, would benefit the most because they pay the most. And so that wouldn't be equitable either. I know it's not easy to figure out how to use this money in a way that benefits the most. And this seems like it's a well-intended approach to help the utilities, but I would ask the finance director, if I was sitting up where you are, would this move the needle? My guess is not on rates, is this money wouldn't move the needle on rates. But it really could help people in our community if it was allocated elsewhere. So I'd urge you all to pull up your sleeves and take another look at this and try to figure out how you can get this money to the people who need it the most, like you've done with the food bank, which is commendable. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's try to keep to 3 minutes. Councilmember Dennis Hartman, go ahead. It's okay. Dennis Hartman. Go ahead. Maybe you have to push *6 to get unmuted. Try that.
I'm on Zoom, so how's that? Can you hear me?
Yep, it worked.
Ah, good. Thank you. And thank you, Your Honor and council members. Dennis Hardman, 5002 Foxglove Drive Northwest, Gig Harbor. Just wanted to voice my support for the Harbor History Museum's Maritime Gallery funding request. Full disclosure, I'm currently serving as the president of the Board of Trustees for the museum. And I know that the city has made a lot of effort and to protect the harbor's fishing village charm And I think that the Maritime Gallery that this request is intended to support is really represents a lot of what that fishing village charm is going to be, and something that will help protect it and preserve it for a long time. The Shenandoah and the Thunderbird sailboat both were designed and built in the harbor. And those two things are going to be icons for future generations to really understand and appreciate what that heritage of the harbor is. I think that thanks to the generosity of a lot of philanthropists and forward-looking people and citizens in the harbor, we have a first-class museum. I mean, for a city the size of Gig Harbor, that museum is really amazing. And it really needs the support of the city, especially under this capital project that we have going, because we have grant requests that we need matching funds for. And this is what the city has been asked to provide. So I hope that you'll consider that and support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other callers? Please press *9 if you'd like to raise your hand. Okay, we will close the public comment portion of our public hearing. And this will go to a second reading. More comments from council? Okay, we will move this to second reading. Next item is Resolution 1221, authorization to apply for a Pierce County Conservation Future Grant. The report tonight is from our interim city administrator, Tony Pasecki.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mayor, members of the council. What is in front of you tonight is a resolution that would authorize the city to apply for a Conservation Futures grant through Pierce County. We have been informed that they have approximately $1.25 million left in their allocation for these type of grants. And we've been encouraged to go ahead and submit a request. What we would be suggesting would be submitting a request of up to $1.2 million. And that would help fund the property that we are talking about acquiring and we discussed earlier this evening. So with that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And I assume that Councilmember Denson would help if there's anything that I can't answer.
I'm going to go to Councilmember Rodenberg unless Councilmember Denson, you had some additions that you wanted to go on.
I'm just happy to answer any questions, and I apologize for the late notice of this agenda item. We just received word on Friday that this was the best route to try and get some support with this project, so that's why this was added last minute.
Thank you.
For that addition.
Councilmember Rodenberg.
Yeah, I'm not real familiar with the Conservation Futures Grant from this particular entity, but I know in most conservation futures, you can't do anything at all on the property. And that would preclude us from putting through the Cushman Trail and things like that. So I'm just wondering if this one would allow us to do certain things like that.
Yes, yes. In fact, one of the priorities that we talk about is trails and corridors. And the great thing about this property, which you'll have to come out, Councilmember Rodenberg, and walk it with us, is there already is a loop trail throughout the entire property. It's really nice. So we just basically have to maintain it. But yeah, it exists. And at the top of the loop, you can see the Cushman Trail. It's right there. So it'd be really easy for us to just add a little bit of a section there.
A little connector, so to speak.
And Councilmember Rodenberg or anyone, I would be pleased to walk it with you if you wanted to at one point.
Why, that drone thing you had was tremendous.
Okay.
I mean,
all right.
as I saw that, I thought, buy it tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you. Any other council comments on this? As clarifying questions first. Councilmember Wook.
I just want to thank Councilmember Denson for bringing this forward when she found out money was available to help purchase this property. It's important that we find some grants and some money. Thank you.
And I also hope to be going to the council, the tribal council in the next 3 weeks to actually make a pitch for them too. So, okay, public comment. We will open it up. Any emails or handwritten comments that came through?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. I will open up for people in the audience or people on the phone or on a computer. If you're on the phone or computer, I believe you push *6 or *9. We've done this so long, I know that by heart. I don't see any callers. Okay, I will close the public comment period. And I don't believe you had more comments, Councilman Rodenberg, but your light's on. I just want to make sure. Okay. All right, so then I am looking towards a council member to do, we still need to pass this, correct?
Correct. We need a
Okay.
motion to approve Resolution 1221.
Councilman Markley,
Move to approve resolution 1221.
Second.
a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. With that, we will go to council reports and comments. First, we'll first do the reports, Intergovernmental Affairs Committee meeting of November 1st, 2021. Councilmember Denson, would you like to give that report?
Yes, I'm not sure there's much I can add because we had the lobbyists go over the legislative agenda. The only other thing I'll add is I think we all know that Congress passed the infrastructure bill. So I had I actually called Dale a couple hours before this meeting and he said, I'm in the hospital having a baby. So I kind of felt like a jerk. But he basically said, as soon as he knows about our requests from the federal infrastructure bill, then he will get us that information. But it's all very new for them as well. So that's all I've got unless people have questions.
Thank you. And Parks Commission meeting of November 3rd, Councilmember Eversole.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Parks Commission meeting November 3rd, 2021. The minutes were approved. We took some public comment from Georgina Armstrong. She was interested that Shaw Park become a community garden. We also heard from Barb Walton. She wants to see some renovation at Shaw Park. Sarah Lindhartson also would like to see a community garden at Shaw Park. Jerry Walton spoke as well. He says he wants to see Shaw Park added to the pros plan, offer a community garden, and then also have an environmental center. Later that evening, Ben Coronado gave us an update on the pros plan. Jeff Langhelm followed that up with a schedule of pros plan tasks. Then we had some members of the Rotary Club, Pam and Vicky, came in to speak about Shaw Park and adding a urban dog park to Shaw Park. Mary Barber brought up the idea of having a representative from the Parks Commission go to the Arts Commission meetings and vice versa. Followed that up by Jeff Langhelm gave us a parks update, and then Ben Coronado made some comments about public comment regarding that there was over 100 comments from the public regarding Shaw Park. So a lot of interest in Shaw Park and where its future lies.
Great, thank you very much. And with that, the next report is Board and Commission Candidate Review Committee meeting of November 8th today. Councilmember Eversole.
Yes, so this was a very difficult meeting. We had 3 members for LTAC that were all excellent. I think the council members that were on this board all felt that we wish we could have all 3 of them. Unfortunately, we're only allowed to select 1. And so we're proud to announce that we are recommending Lindsay Stover for this position. Of course, the mayor will make that appointment if he chooses to. And that we ask that the other members also please don't give up, because again, we all feel they would be great added benefit to our community. And that concludes my reports from Board Commission Review Committee in Parks.
Thank you. And that is a council appointed, so that will come back I believe that'll come back the next council meeting, the 22nd. Thank you for those reports. Council comments. Okay.
Just one quick one. Sorry, Mayor.
Sure.
Just a quick reminder of Veterans Day on November 11th. It's a free event. It's a drive-in event. You can still register. There is lunch from Barbecue to You, speakers. It's going to be
I'm sorry, what is
fantastic.
it?
Veterans Day on the
Yes.
11th.
Yes.
So join us.
And the city is closed that day, just so everyone knows.
And you can listen to it live on KGHP.
There you go. Very good. We have announcements of upcoming meetings. We have a Public Works Committee meeting on Tuesday, November 9th, tomorrow at 3 p.m. A City Council study session on Thursday, November 18th at 3 p.m. and an Intergovernmental Affairs Committee meeting Monday, November 22nd at 4 p.m. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Haven't done this for a while.
She lives in the park.